Every night, millions of men over 60 go to bed making the same invisible mistake. Not a mistake they can feel, not a mistake that shows up on a single blood test, but a mistake that compounds quietly night after night, silently eroding the very system that keeps them alive, their circulation. Here is what most men do not realize. During sleep, your body enters the single most critical window for cardiovascular repair in your entire 24-hour cycle. Your blood vessels need to regenerate. Your arterial walls need to recover. Your nitric oxide levels need to rebuild. And if the right compounds are not present in your bloodstream during that window, that repair simply does not happen the way it should. What you are left with every morning is a circulatory system that is quietly, incrementally worse than it was the day before. And the worst part? Most men never connect the dots. They wake up feeling stiff, sluggish, with that dull heaviness in their legs, that foggy pressure behind their eyes, and they chalk it up to age. They accept it as inevitable. It is not inevitable. And tonight, that changes. There is a specific combination of natural compounds that, when stirred into extra virgin olive oil and consumed 30 to 60 minutes before bed, can fundamentally alter what happens inside your blood vessels while you sleep. The mechanism begins the first night you use it, and it builds powerfully and progressively from there. What happens to your circulation by morning is not a coincidence. It is biology, and you are about to understand exactly why. I'm Dr. Natalie Parker, and if you want to keep receiving important content about men's health after 60, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Because the truth is, most men over 60 are unknowingly starving their cardiovascular system every single night. Not from lack of medication, not from lack of effort, from lack of information, and that changes right now. Let's start with the foundation. Why olive oil? Why specifically at night? And why is timing not just helpful but essential to this entire protocol working at all? Extra virgin olive oil is not a cooking fat. It is one of the most pharmacologically complex foods in the human diet. It contains more than 30 distinct polyphenolic compounds, each with documented biological activity in the cardiovascular system. Among the most critical for men over 60 are three specific molecules: hydroxytyrosol, oleuropein, and oleocanthal. Hydroxytyrosol is one of the most powerful natural antioxidants ever measured. Its antioxidant capacity exceeds that of vitamin C, vitamin E, and coenzyme Q10. When you consume extra virgin olive oil, hydroxytyrosol enters your bloodstream and distributes to your tissues, where it protects against the oxidative damage that destroys nitric oxide and breaks down the inner lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium. Why does the endothelium matter so much? Because without a healthy endothelial lining, your blood vessels lose the ability to dilate properly. They become rigid, stiff, and unresponsive. Blood flow to every organ, your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your muscles, and yes, the areas where men most directly measure their vitality, begins to decline in ways that medication often cannot reverse once the damage accumulates past a certain threshold. Oleuropein, the second key compound in olive oil, directly stimulates nitric oxide production inside endothelial cells. It activates the enzyme responsible for synthesizing nitric oxide through a signaling pathway that enhances that enzyme's activity level. More enzyme activity means more nitric oxide. More nitric oxide means greater vasodilation. Greater vasodilation means better blood flow. And better blood flow every morning means more energy, sharper mental clarity, stronger physical capacity, and the kind of circulatory resilience that makes men feel decades younger than their chronological age. Oleocanthal, the third key compound, has anti-inflammatory effects similar to common over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medications. It inhibits the cyclooxygenase enzymes that drive production of inflammatory molecules, damaging your blood vessel walls. Chronic vascular inflammation is one of the primary drivers of circulatory decline after 60. Addressing it nightly during the repair window is far more effective than any intermittent approach. Now, here is where timing becomes everything. And this is the piece of information most men never receive. During sleep, your parasympathetic nervous system becomes dominant. Blood pressure naturally drops in what researchers call nocturnal dipping. Growth hormone is released in pulses that promote tissue repair, and your endothelial cells enter their most active regeneration cycle of the entire 24-hour period. This is the window when your cardiovascular system is most capable of genuine repair and most hungry for the compounds that make that repair possible. When you consume olive oil and its additions 30 to 60 minutes before bed, those compounds are absorbed during the early hours of sleep and become available to your body precisely when this repair work is at peak intensity. You are not just consuming nutrients, you are delivering targeted biological support directly into the window when your body can use it most effectively. And this brings us to what you stir into that olive oil, because this is where things become genuinely extraordinary. The first addition is raw cacao powder. Not processed cocoa, not chocolate, raw cacao. The distinction is critical, and most men who attempt this get it wrong from the very first step. Raw cacao contains epicatechin, one of the most extensively studied flavonols for cardiovascular health in the world. Epicatechin activates the same nitric oxide-producing enzyme that all-European from olive oil activates, but through a completely different upstream signaling pathway. When two compounds stimulate the same target enzyme through independent pathways simultaneously, the combined effect far exceeds what either achieves alone. You are not adding effects, you are multiplying them. But epicatechin does something else that almost no health content discusses. It inhibits phosphodiesterase type 5, the enzyme that breaks down the downstream messenger molecule carrying the vasodilation signal from nitric oxide. When that messenger is degraded too quickly, the vasodilation signal weakens before your blood vessels can fully respond. Epicatechin slows that breakdown. The signal persists longer, accumulates to higher levels, and produces a more complete, more sustained opening of your blood vessels during the overnight hours. Here is why olive oil specifically matters for cacao delivery. Epicatechin has limited water solubility. When consumed in a water-based preparation, a significant portion passes through your digestive system unabsorbed. But when dissolved in the oleic acid of extra virgin olive oil, absorption improves dramatically. The fat-mediated pathway in your intestines carries it into your bloodstream at substantially higher concentrations. Bioavailability of flavonols consumed with dietary fat is measurably greater, and olive oil provides the ideal fat matrix. Stir 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw cacao powder into 1 tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil until fully incorporated. The mixture forms a thick, dark paste that is surprisingly satisfying to consume before bed. The second addition addresses a mechanism most men over 60 are fighting against without knowing it, and without addressing it, everything else works at a fraction of its potential. That ingredient is turmeric, combined with a precise pinch of black pepper. Turmeric contains curcumin, one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatory compounds ever identified. Curcumin inhibits the nuclear factor kappa B pathway, the master switch controlling inflammatory gene expression throughout your entire body. When this pathway is chronically overactive, as it typically is in men over 60, it drives continuous production of inflammatory molecules that directly damage your endothelial lining and impair nitric oxide production. You can do everything right to increase nitric oxide production, but if your endothelium is chronically inflamed, destruction is outpacing repair. Curcumin slows that damage at its genetic source, allowing the repair processes everything else in this formulation supports to actually get ahead of the inflammation curve. Clinical trials have demonstrated measurable improvements in endothelial function following regular curcumin consumption. One notable study showed improvements in blood vessel flexibility comparable to those achieved through moderate aerobic exercise. For men over 60 who cannot exercise at high intensities, this finding is not a footnote. It is a lifeline. Here is where most people make the critical mistake. The oral bioavailability of curcumin consumed alone is less than 1%. You can eat turmeric every day and absorb almost none of it, but piperine from black pepper increases curcumin absorption by approximately 2,000%. Add olive oil and you gain a third layer. Because curcumin is lipophilic, olive oil solubilizes it in an oleic acid matrix that protects it from digestive degradation and delivers it through the fat absorption pathway at far higher concentrations. 3 mechanisms. 3 layers of absorption enhancement, working simultaneously. Most men consuming turmeric alone are absorbing almost nothing. Men consuming turmeric with black pepper and olive oil before bed are absorbing a profoundly different effective dose. There is also a direct anti-inflammatory synergy between curcumin and oleocanthal from the olive oil. Oleocanthal inhibits cyclooxygenase enzymes. Curcumin modulates the nuclear factor kappa B pathway. Together, they address inflammation through different molecular targets, providing broader overnight vascular protection than either compound alone. Stir 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric and a generous pinch of freshly ground black pepper into your olive oil and cacao mixture. Now, before we continue to the 3rd and 4th editions, this is exactly the right moment to point you towards something important. If you want a clear, organized reference for the compounds discussed in this video, along with evidence-based guidance on choices that protect both cardiovascular and prostate health in men over 60, the medical guide to avoid the mistakes that damage the prostate. After 60 is available in the pinned comment below the video. This is not a sales tool. It is a clinical reference that gives you the framework for informed decisions. What damages your circulation and what damages your prostate often operate through the exact same mechanisms: chronic inflammation, impaired blood flow, and hormonal disruption. Find it in the pinned comment below. The 3rd edition is the one most men most urgently need, and the one most cardiovascular content never addresses in this context. That ingredient is ashwagandha root extract powder. Here is the invisible problem silently sabotaging overnight cardiovascular repair in most men over 60: chronically elevated nighttime cortisol. In healthy physiology, cortisol drops sharply through the evening to allow deep, restorative sleep. But in men experiencing chronic stress, poor sleep, or the hormonal disruptions that compound after 60, cortisol frequently remains elevated through the night. And elevated nighttime cortisol is one of the most destructive forces acting on your cardiovascular system. Elevated nighttime cortisol constricts blood vessels. It raises blood pressure during the hours when pressure should be at its lowest. It promotes vascular inflammation. It directly impairs nitric oxide production. It suppresses growth hormone, the hormone most responsible for tissue repair during sleep. It reduces testosterone production, which peaks during sleep and requires a low cortisol environment. And it prevents the deep sleep stages where the most significant cardiovascular recovery occurs. Elevated nighttime cortisol does not block one recovery mechanism. It dismantles the entire overnight repair process. Every benefit the olive oil, cacao, and turmeric are working to provide, cortisol is working against from the inside. Ashwagandha contains active compounds called withanolides. In multiple clinical trials, withanolides have been shown to significantly reduce cortisol levels, improve stress resilience, and support healthy hormonal balance. Research demonstrates that ashwagandha supplementation improves sleep quality, increases time in deep sleep stages, and reduces the time required to fall asleep. With lower cortisol and deeper sleep, your cardiovascular system performs its repair work at full capacity, uninterrupted in the hormonal environment that meaningful vascular recovery demands. Ashwagandha also supports healthy testosterone levels. Since testosterone peaks during sleep and depends on the cortisol to testosterone ratio remaining favorable, cortisol reduction and improved deep sleep create conditions for overnight hormonal recovery that compound beneficially over time. And testosterone directly maintains endothelial function and promotes nitric oxide production, reinforcing everything else this protocol is already doing. Withanolides are fat-soluble compounds, making olive oil their ideal delivery vehicle. When ashwagandha powder is stirred into extra virgin olive oil, the oleic acid dissolves the withanolides and enhances their absorption in a way that capsules or water-based preparations cannot match. Add 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of high-quality ashwagandha root extract powder to your olive oil mixture. Now, the fourth addition. The one I deliberately saved for last because its mechanism is the most unexpected and its synergy with olive oil at bedtime is the most scientifically precise of everything we have discussed. That ingredient is pomegranate seed oil, not pomegranate juice, not pomegranate extract, the oil specifically cold-pressed from pomegranate seeds. This distinction is critical because pomegranate seed oil contains a compound found in virtually no other common food source on the planet. That compound is punicic acid, a conjugated linolenic acid making up approximately 65 to 80% of pomegranate seed oil's total fatty acid content. Punicic acid has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects entirely distinct from every other compound in this protocol. It is not overlapping what the olive oil, cacao, or turmeric are doing. It is filling specific gaps those compounds leave open. Punicic acid modulates inflammatory pathways through peroxisome proliferator activated receptors, nuclear receptors regulating gene expression involved in inflammation, fat metabolism, and glucose handling. By activating these receptors, punicic acid shifts your body's metabolic and inflammatory state in a direction that supports vascular health at the genetic level. But the truly surprising mechanism involves pomegranate seed oil's effect on an enzyme called paraoxinase 1. Paraoxinase 1 is produced by your liver and travels through your bloodstream attached to HDL cholesterol particles. Its primary function is to protect LDL cholesterol from oxidation. And oxidized LDL is one of the most destructive agents your cardiovascular system faces. When LDL becomes oxidized, it triggers inflammatory cascades in your artery walls, promotes arterial plaque formation, directly damages endothelial cells, and impairs nitric oxide production. The process is self-reinforcing. Oxidized LDL creates more inflammation, which accelerates more LDL oxidation. This cycle drives the progressive cardiovascular deterioration most men over 60 accept as inevitable. Pomegranate seed oil enhances paraoxinase 1 activity, protecting LDL from oxidation before it can trigger that destructive cascade. Research has demonstrated that pomegranate compounds increase paraoxinase 1 activity and measurably reduce circulating oxidized LDL. When this protection is provided during the overnight hours, when your liver is most actively processing blood lipids and your blood vessels are undergoing intensive repair, the effect compounds night after night. When pomegranate seed oil is combined with extra virgin olive oil, the oleic acid and punicic acid provide complementary fatty acid profiles that together support cell membrane health and fluidity throughout your blood vessel walls, making them more responsive, more elastic, and more capable of dilating when circulation demands increase. Add 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed pomegranate seed oil to your complete mixture. Ensure it is pure and cold-pressed without additives or dilution. The flavor is mild and slightly nutty, integrating seamlessly into the formulation. Now let me bring the entire protocol together. Your extra virgin olive oil delivers hydroxytyrosol for antioxidant protection of regenerating endothelial cells, oleuropein to activate nitric oxide synthase, oleocanthal for anti-inflammatory protection, and oleic acid as the superior fat carrier, making every other compound dramatically more bioavailable. Your raw cacao provides epicatechin for additional nitric oxide synthase activation through a complementary pathway, plus phosphodiesterase type 5 inhibition to protect the vasodilation signal and allow it to persist and accumulate throughout the night. Your turmeric with black pepper delivers curcumin for nuclear factor kappa B anti-inflammatory modulation, with dramatically enhanced absorption through the dual mechanism synergy of piperine and olive oil fat matrix solubilization working simultaneously. Your ashwagandha provides withanolide-mediated cortisol reduction that creates the optimized overnight hormonal environment your cardiovascular repair requires. removing the most powerful hormonal barrier against vascular recovery while supporting the deep sleep where the most significant repair occurs. And your pomegranate seed oil contributes punicic acid for peroxisome proliferator activated receptor modulation and paraoxinase 1 enhancement, protecting your LDL from oxidation at its source and interrupting the inflammatory cycle that silently drives cardiovascular decline in men over 60. To prepare the complete nightly formulation, combine 1 tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil with 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw cacao powder, 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric, a generous pinch of freshly ground black pepper, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of ashwagandha root extract powder, and 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed pomegranate seed oil. Stir thoroughly until everything is fully combined into a rich, thick, golden brown paste. Consume directly from the spoon approximately 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Consistency is the single variable that separates men who notice a profound difference from men who notice nothing. The overnight benefits build progressively over weeks and months. Each night provides another complete cycle of enhanced repair, reduced inflammation, amplified nitric oxide capacity, cortisol regulation, and strengthened vascular protection. The cumulative effect represents genuine physiological transformation. Measurable, documented biological change at the level of your blood vessels, your hormones, and your daily cardiovascular function. So to answer the question we started with, can what you stir into olive oil every night actually change what your circulation looks like by morning? Yes, not through anything mysterious, through biology, through understanding the specific repair window that exists during sleep, providing the precise compounds that window requires, removing the hormonal barriers that sabotage repair from the inside, and doing it consistently enough that the cumulative benefit compounds night after night. Your blood vessels are working to repair themselves every single night regardless of what you do. The question is whether you are giving them what they need to do that repair completely and effectively. Now you know exactly what that looks like, and exactly why it works. If this content brought you something genuinely useful, share it with a man in your life who deserves better mornings. And if you want to continue receiving evidence-based guidance on men's health after 60, content that gives you real mechanisms, real compounds, and real decisions, subscribing to this channel ensures you never miss what is coming next. I'm Dr. Natalie Parker, and I'll see you in the next video.